Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tag Podcast, Season 2, Episode 24. Recording at an away game for me. I am not at my setup, but that's okay. We can get into that later. Go ahead and check us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple, Amazon, or Spotify. We're on all three. And we're going to go through talking points about Super Bowl 59, some of the things that we want to discuss from that, not a whole lot. And then we're going to have a bit of a season recap, just some stuff that we like to talk about, some of our favorite moments, some of our favorite players, and just anything to reminisce about the great season that we had. It is unfortunately over. We are football-less, NFL-less for several months now, and it's kind of sad to get to. But
it's gonna hit me really hard when I stop doing tape study for the draft. As soon as the draft's over, it's gonna be like, oh wow, there's actually like, what did I used to do on Sundays? How do I
OTAs are a bad time, man. But do we want to get into some of the Super Bowl 59 nonsense that went on?
Yeah, we can for sure start off at, probably the most notable, the first thing that really caught your eye about the Super Bowl, and that was just the worst, as it's called, score bug. Just the broadcast, it sucked. It really did. Just the broadcast overlay for someone who doesn't use the word score bug to understand what we're talking about. The nice little thing that tells you score and times and oh my goodness.
I'll throw a picture of it up there. I won't leave it up for too long because I really don't want to make myself look at it for any longer than I have. It was really bad though. It was just it made me not enjoy that game.
It was, as soon as the game was on, I turned to Kendall, my wife, and I just say, "Oh wow, that's ugly, huh?"
And you texted me. I hadn't even looked at it. You texted me. You were like, "Dude, this thing's disgusting," and I was like, "Ugh." Yeah, you're right. It is.
It's just so like minimalist, like no fun to be had. The way that like there wasn't even a backing for the stats in the bottom right corner. Yeah. It was just words on the background. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's weird.
The score was just on the grass. Like this, it was team block and then number next to it. It was PNG number. It was not.
And then it's also
disgusting.
That team block is just team color with the word KC or the PHI. And it's like, okay, I feel like we can be a little more creative with this.
There's a tweet I saw where somebody just remade it in Google Sheets in about 20 seconds and said, "Guys, I made a new score bug. What do you think?" And yeah, look, we're harping on this for so long because it really was that bad. I'm assuming those of you that are actually watching this podcast probably watched the Super Bowl. I know bold of me to assume, but you probably did, and you probably share the same disregard for it. But if you disagree with us, if you think it was nice, go get checked out, dude. Go to the mental hospital. It was not nice. Yes. It was not good.
We go ahead, drop your address in the comments. Don't do that. Don't do that. And we will send a wellness check. Don't do
absolutely.
It.
Don't do it. Please don't.
But I think we can definitely move past this disgusting thing. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to show more people it. There's puke in my mouth right now. Yeah. If you want to move on to talking about the actual game, we can start doing that.
The Eagles defense, I mean, this I don't say this lightly, and I've thought about this for like the past 2.5 days. I've been like, can I say this legitimately? This may be the best defense I have ever watched in a Super Bowl. Period. I watched the Patriots play in many Super Bowls. The Patriots always had lockdown defenses. They were nothing like this Eagles defense. Holy crap, dude. They had Mahomes seeing ghosts. Do you know how hard it is to see the devil magic man seeing ghosts? Do you know how impossible that is?
Well, he's so used to seeing them, but all of the sacrifices, they just kind of emanate out from the body, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that. There's Jimmy from the block," and here he is seeing ghosts that he doesn't recognize, and this is the first time it's ever happened. It was on such a big stage for Mahomes to just kind of collapse.
Yeah, and
I mean, it takes a good defense to do that.
Yeah, this is zero blitzes. Like not that they ran zero blitzes like the play zero blitz, but they didn't blitz a single time. It was 4-man rushes the entire game. Not one play did they send more than a fourth man. And I mean, like that's just unheard of to have that production out of your defensive line against a team who, like, they have their offensive line issues, sure, but their offensive line's pretty damn good. Like it's not anything to be ashamed of. And I mean, Howie Roseman, GM of the Eagles, he put on a masterclass the past few off seasons with, I mean, the Jalen Carter pick, it's a good pick. It was a no-brainer. He fell to them. He was supposed to be like a top 3 pick, and just the off-field issues were the only reason he fell. But I mean, Zach Bond coming in, making an impact. Mekhi Becton coming in and being such a good guard for them after being written off as a terrible pick by the Jets at tackle, and just the amount of players that he's been able to bring in. With,
I mean, AJ Brown, if you want to go even further, like
and
important player for the Super Bowl teams for them.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, they cooked. I mean, Cooper had a touchdown on his birthday. That's huge. And then Quinyon Mitchell was able to shut down some guys, and it was just such a beautiful defensive performance that completely shut out the Chiefs' offense. And the other thing I want to talk about is that the Chiefs' defense wasn't playing badly. Like, they let up 40-some points, and it wasn't their fault. It was the pick 6 by DeJean, then the pick 6 inside the red that put the Eagles inside the red zone, and that was 2 of their touchdowns. And all of a sudden, momentum is completely shot. So it's not even like it's a bad performance from the Chiefs' defense, but that's what it looks like on paper.
And
did
like,
you see?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, did you see anything from the Chiefs side of things? I was watching as, like, this was the most successful hate watch of my entire life. So was there anything you saw that was like a tell as to why they were so bad, or was it just like falling apart at the perfect time?
Yeah, no, as you had mentioned, the offensive line woes that they had, they really got built upon each other as the year went on, because as you have these tackles, these rotating guys that you're putting in because you need to find a solution, it gets bad enough where you can't even find one, so you have to move your left guard out. Now you just have a void at left guard. And having a void at left guard in the Super Bowl against Jalen Carter isn't a great call, like against anybody on the defensive interior for them, not specifically him. And on the edges as well, like, yeah, you improved left tackle, but you've made such a gap because you have this player who's coming in who's so much worse than Thuney. Like, probably getting Whitworth out of, as a veteran out of freaking retirement, would have played better for them in this Super Bowl than running the game plan they did. They had Thuney out on left tackle in the championship game, and it like worked, and that's probably why they were like, okay, this is going to be how we have to win the Super Bowl. Like, we're going to have to go in with this and hope that we can get these guys right, good enough and quick enough for the Super Bowl of all games. And it feels like that's a change you don't make with the Super Bowl on the line. You just kind of like, okay, you made it through 15 games of the year, and then you started to have to play with these different changes. Maybe you just kind of go back to the way you had it prior, and you don't just let or even make an in-game adjustment to it. You know, it was like, oh, we have Thuney out on the outside, and we are going to leave him there the entire time. And, you know, Tom Brady spoke about it on the broadcast. He's talking about how as soon as Mahomes completes his drop, he's already got pressure on him. He's already moving. He doesn't get to hit a hitch. Footwork is so important for quarterbacks. You hit that hitch at the end of your drop back, and you throw that ball. And he doesn't have a clean enough pocket to even hit a hitch and throw the ball. And he was having to run around, create as much as he could. But in those, you know, creating play moments, you got Cooper DeJean just kind of sneakily athletic.
Oh my God, dude, that
hanging
freaking
out.
pick
Like,
6 was so good. I mean, that wasn't his zone. That wasn't where he was supposed to be. But he saw Mahomes moving, and he saw where he was trying to go, and he was like, I can cut that off, and got to it. And that's the kind of play that you see from a lunch pail guy, you know?
To that guy who's just the first guy in, and he's the last guy out.
He's there the whole day. He's the last guy out too. It's crazy to see that. Yeah, this Eagles defense, like I said, just one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen. And this, I'm going to say 2 things, and then I'm going to stop harping on the Chiefs, because there really isn't a whole lot of harping that I want to do on the Chiefs. I saw them lose. I'm happy, so I don't have to get this out of my system to be happy. But the whole season, I was talking about how they were not impressive. They were not showing me that they could be a high quality team. And this game was just the cultivation of every issue that I saw from them throughout the season, where they shouldn't have been winning games. They weren't winning convincingly. They weren't playing like they could win games. And this is just the perfect culmination of all of that, but against a better team, so it actually showed. And the other thing is Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends of all time. But I struggle to say that because he doesn't play tight end. He plays big slot from the tight end position. He doesn't
Hmm.
block well. And that's one of the hallmarks of a great tight end is that they can block well. And while he adds a lot in the receiving game and he's been their receiving identity for the past however many years he's been there, when you see him tap Josh Sweat's shoulder and then go run a route, and by the time Patrick is getting into his drop, he is being tackled by Josh Sweat because Kelsey couldn't chip him for a second to get him into the tackle. Like,
Hmm.
that's just not something that you want to see out of this great tight end. When you, like, yeah, he's getting older. He's probably going to look towards retirement. And so, yeah, it's a business decision as an aging guy who doesn't want to put his body on the line to destroy a 24-year-old edge rusher who's at the peak of his athletic. Like, I get it. I
Hmm.
understand. But it grinds my gears when I think of watching Gronk. And Gronk was this receiving monster that also would just, I mean, he cut his own career short because of how brutal he was at every
Hmm.
facet of the game, where he would run through people, he would bowl over people, whether he had the ball or not. And Kelsey is just kind of this find the open spot, sit in it, catch it, cover it up, and run for however many extra yards you can get. And it's typically not that many unless there's a bunch of open space. But he doesn't play as physically as I'd like a tight end to play. And that hasn't been on full display until he really needed to be this much better blocker that he just couldn't be.
Yeah.
And
And,
now after my monologue, please take the reins and tell me what you
yeah,
think about it.
no, we touched on, Kelsey and his matchup against the linebackers and against this Eagles defense, and it was going to be extremely difficult for Kelsey to get the ball in this game. The unfortunate downside is that it was going to be unfortunate or difficult for anybody to get the ball in this game because the DBs are great. Oh, the safeties are also good. Oh my gosh, this is their linebacking core. Kill us now. Kelsey, he could find those little spots, but the ball just, whether it be his drops or Mahomes being pressured, like there's not enough opportunity for him to actually reel in a catch and get to what he does best. Of this, I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to run for 5 extra yards. He couldn't do that because he wasn't getting the ball in his hands. He was dropping it. There were passes that were going astray. It was just an ugly game from Mahomes and Kelsey. And these were two people who, up to this point of their season, or up to the point of their career, these were two people that were in top 2 talks. The Mount Rushmores of quarterbacks. There's like, hey, this is going to be the chance for him to cement his legacy as a quarterback if he wins the only 3-peat. Hey, this is going to be a chance for Kelsey to cement his legacy. I mean, he's leading all of the record books, but when you go ahead and you get a 3-peat and you are, one of the main pieces of the offense, you're not like limping into a 3-peat as a, really old player who really didn't get much receiving work. He's still got so many targets this whole season, and he really started slow, got a lot better in the playoffs, played great up until now. And their disjointedness, they just kind of couldn't find any rhythm because of that offensive line, because of the defensive line and that 4-man rush. It really just was like a perfect storm. They're going to collapse, and we have to just make note and move on. And this affects their legacy so heavily because they played as bad as they did.
Yeah, and then the thing that I feel like is going to not affect their legacy and it's going to bother me is the stat padding at the end of the game with the 70-yard bomb to Xavier
Xavier
Worthy. And
Worthy.
yeah, great throw, great job. You're down 30. Like, good job, Pat. You threw it 70 yards, and it was impressive. It was a very good throw. It was a great catch by Worthy, and that's not an easy thing to do. But getting that many yards and touchdowns and everything after the game is already decided is going to make it hard to look back on this game as the failure that it truly was for the Chiefs, where they were down 34-0.
Yeah.
And then they scored 6. And
34-6. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like the highlight cut-ups from NFL, and they're talking about like, oh, this is Patrick Mahomes turns it on, and it's like the clips start down 34-0. What are we actually doing with this highlight reel? And it's just so, like, I'm glad that those highlight reels exist because they'll be able to show like, hey, yeah, they actually, it was a pretty bad game from them. But yeah, the other part of me feels really bad for DeAndre Hopkins for a little bit,
Yeah.
because I start to feel bad for him because he did talk about the refs. He was like, y'all have been complaining about the refs being bad in favor of us all game. They really screwed us this game. Where's the same disdain for the refs? And I get it. They did kind of suck. They did kind of call some ticky tack things against the, like in not against the against the Chiefs, not for the Chiefs. They called some really ticky tack things, but they didn't drop that pass in the open field, DeAndre. They didn't make you sign with the Titans.
Rough.
They didn't make you sign with the Titans and rot there for a year and a half before you went to the Chiefs. You could have had a Super Bowl ring if you signed with the Chiefs when they offered you, instead of taking a little bit more money to go play in Tennessee. Like,
yeah,
I start to feel bad for him, and then I think about what he did to get to the point that he's at, where he was traded midseason to finally be on the Chiefs after having the opportunity to be there for a Super Bowl run already. And I just lose all of that amount of feeling bad for him. And I'm like, yeah, no, you did this to yourself. This is everything that you did here. You deserve not winning a Super Bowl because of the way you went about getting to the Chiefs, where you could have just made that decision, go to the Chiefs. You still have a couple years of your athletic, I wouldn't say prime, but like you're still a quality receiver, and you can still impact this roster. And that would have been such a terrifying thing when you're already winning 2 Super Bowls. And D-Hop's there now, and he's making an impact. And yeah, but the other thing I want to talk about with this game, and I'm going to let you take the reins for this question entirely because I have my thoughts on this, but Jalen Hurts was named Super Bowl MVP. He had 72 rushing yards and a touchdown, and 200 some passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 pick. I don't feel like that's an MVP level performance, especially with the game that we watched. Who do you think the real Super Bowl MVP was?
Well, I've seen it just nonstop on Madden. It's Cooper DeJean, all right?
Yeah,
he got a defensive touchdown, baby. Let's go. It could be any player that made such an impact on the defense. I mean, anybody from the front 4 that was pass rushing and getting in Mahomes' face all day. Only one player on the defense got a touchdown, and it's Cooper DeJean. And it was on his birthday. I feel like you just give it to the guy, Like, yeah, quarterback, cool. Give it to the guy who just got a touchdown on his birthday, and he's a defensive player. These come in rare, all right? It's not an everyday thing.
Yeah, and it was his first NFL interception as well. He didn't have one before that. Yeah, I like that. I like the shout out to Madden always giving the defensive touchdown scores the Super Bowl MVP, because I was going to bring that up, but you beat me to it. I think anybody on the front, on the D-line, is worthy of it. I think Milton Williams is a good shout. He had 2.5 sacks and the forced fumble, and I think the recovery as well. I think he fell on it when he hit Mahomes' arm, and I think he grabbed it as well. Josh Sweat had a phenomenal game, and I think he could be deserving of it. And then Zach Bond also had that interception, and he just played a pretty good game at the linebacker position. And it's so odd that, the 3 players that I immediately think of as Super Bowl MVPs are all impending free agents. So it's just an extra level to that, and to see where the Eagles are going to go from here. But that's my 2 cents on the Super Bowl, and a little, probably more than 2 cents, but
yeah, a whole dollar, we'll say.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add on that game?
The highlight of my night was Kendrick Lamar at halftime. After that, that was actually the highlight of the day. That's where I'll leave that. Shout out Kendrick. KDOT. Great show. All those old whites, get off of the internet. All right, stop complaining about it.
Kung Fu Kenny.
Okay, Llama, Mr. Morale. Moving past the Super Bowl and everything it entailed, we now get into our season recap. So here we are just going to touch on some of those highlights of the year, some notable moments, some of our favorite things that happened throughout the season, and, just kind of recap it quickly, just in a nice, give y'all a full podcast experience as opposed to just like a 15-minute, here's the Super Bowl talk. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and start off with your first notable moment from the year.
Yeah, I think the most notable moment that maybe isn't the earliest on in the year that I want to talk about
Mhm.
is Joe Milton's Week 18 performance. Like, as much as it pained me,
As actually
as
latest in the year.
yeah, latest for the Patriots, it was the last one.
Mhm.
As much as it pained me from the perspective of wanting a better pick, and realizing that meant we didn't get the first overall pick. If we had lost that game, we would have had number one. We wouldn't have had to hope that somebody falls to
Mhm.
us at 4. As much as that hurts, that was such a sick performance, dude. That was so awesome to see him ball out like that, and to see a guy just slinging it for the Patriots. And to be very clear, Drake May lover right here. I love Drake May.
Mhm.
He is the future. Joe Milton is not. But I just love seeing a guy go out there and play like Jameis does, and that's exactly what Joe Milton does. And I just sit. Sometimes I sit there and I think about it, and I'm like, he really went out and did that, and he did a backflip in the middle of a game, and he went out and ran, scrambled, 360 no scope to Pop Douglas, and yeah, it's just such a fun game to think about.
Yeah. I'll match your energy, and I'm gonna go ahead and say one from you. You did one from your team. I'll do one from my team, and it's kind of more than one. But it can be summarized with like one thing that happened for each of them. Every time Ben Johnson snorted a line of coke on the sidelines, dude, moment of the year, all right? Because pulling out a fake fumble play where he was early in the week asking Jared Goff, hey, throw the ball on the floor for me. And Jared Goff was like, no, are you okay? And he was like, no, yeah, I'm fine.
A second.
What do you mean? I'm perfectly fine. Yeah, no, those were anytime Lions, pulled out something just absurd. Definitely was just what a time.
Yeah,
that's the big one I can think of. There's also Jared Goff receiving touchdown. That was great, and in the black unis too. It's just so much happened this year. Amon-Ra with his little head stick too. It's just as a Lions fan, good regular season to reflect on.
That celebration, that week where that celebration was the one that everybody was doing, was a really fun week to watch. It was the dude at UIW, and then Drake London did it, Amon-Ra did it, and that was just both of those were great replications of it. And then just to piggyback off you, I'll stay in the NFC North just to kind of try to relate it to anything I can. My favorite moment from this year, my favorite just one thing that happened, was Eberflus saving his timeout. That was just like
we beat the curse. We beat the Thanksgiving curse, and Eberflus got fired, and he gets to take his timeout to use after a QB draw in Dallas. It's just really going to be a great time all around.
He saved the timeout. They needed the timeout. Yeah, it's a perfect match,
It's why he got hired, honestly.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
Of course. They're like, dude, you know how to save timeouts. Oh my God.
Oh, man. All right. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get into probably, I'll say a favorite, like, it might not be a breakout performance, but it definitely, we saw more of him this year than we did last year. And that's going to be, again, sticking with that homer mentality, Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs had such an electric year. He filled in more during some injured moments for David Montgomery. And, I mean, just so many iconic plays with him as the backbone of it, whether it just be like really interesting designed runs where, we got Panay going out and doing crazy things, which also I should have mentioned as part of the Ben Johnson Coke train. Why was Sewell being used so much as an offensive weapon?
This is just as a quarterback.
He had the ball. He was ready to throw it. He had to stiff arm a guy into the ground. Like,
he took more sacks than he gave up.
Yeah, let's reel it back to Jahmyr Gibbs. Just a great season from him. Great fantasy year for him, for all those who had him. And just, like, it's cemented him as, like, oh, yeah, no, running backs still have value. You can still draft them in the draft. We knew that after year one, but year two, it's like a whole different beast just came out of Jahmyr Gibbs. And he became Sonic. He was no longer just Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off that running back still having value, I think Saquon and Derrick Henry being the kings of the offseason and just being such home run hits, that's such a great thing to see. I love the revitalization of the running back market, and the fact that they're so underpaid. Like, I get it. They take a lot more hits, so they're a lot more susceptible to shorter careers than maybe a receiver would be. But to see the stats all the time about where Saquon's contract would be the 33rd ranked wide receiver contract in the league, and it's like, this dude is the offense for Philly. Like this dude is an offensive identity, and that's the thing with us mocking Genty a couple different places, where he is the offensive identity wherever he goes, and running backs can be that. Where if you're a quarterback, Drake May is great, but you need receivers and you need a good O-line to truly be the identity of an offense. And as a running back, you need a good O-line, and we've seen that kind of not work with Kenneth Walker in Seattle. But I think at a certain point, you can overcome a bad offense. You can overcome a mediocre offensive line, maybe not a bad offensive line, but I think running backs deserve to get their flowers a little bit more than they do. And Derrick Henry popping off for the Ravens, Saquon popping off for the Eagles, and Jahmyr Gibbs popping off for the Lions are definitely the first steps there. We'll probably see the Falcons and Bijan Robinson just do the same thing and follow the same path, and then whoever gets Genty will do the same thing and follow the same path. And I think it's with the whole too high safety thing that was a popular talking point earlier this year, we're definitely moving back to a running back renaissance. And a revitalization of the running back market is long overdue for the amount of work they put in for teams.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move on to one of those like most surprising moments that we had here. Because we do have it kind of, moment as player performance or moment as just like this one player breaking out of nowhere. I have a surprising moment of kind of the reverse. How on earth did Jared Goff throw that many picks and we still beat the Texans? It's mind-boggling because and I spoke on it during the podcast after that week, and it's like, okay, this was a good pass. This pass was intercepted, but it was a good pass. It was where it should have been. A lot of plays like that in that game, and just the ability to win that game despite that deficit in the turnover ratio. That was one of the most surprising moments, because as a fan sitting there watching it, like, oh my gosh, it rains, it pours, it's just still coming. And especially after Jared Goff had such an interception-free start of the year, all of his interceptions in that game, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And then you still pull it out. That was definitely one of those like most surprising moments to me.
Yeah, this is one that I don't have written down, but you just kind of spurred that thought. I'm so glad Kamari Lassiter is as good as he is, because I remember in the draft cycle, I was like, this dude is probably like, he should be an end of the first round pick. Like he was the guy that I liked over Rake and over like basically everybody who wasn't the Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell level. He was the guy that I was like, he should be the next up. And I'm so glad that I was right about that. And I really had no reason to think that about him, because I hadn't watched any film or really looked into it at all. But I was just like, this Georgia guy, I was looking at the stats, looking at his build, looking at his alignments and everything, and I was like, this is the guy. Like, you want him on your team. And he and Stingley made up such a dynamic cornerback duo in Houston. And I'm just so glad that I was right about that, and they were able to pop off like that, because it's just such a fun secondary to watch.
Yeah. And I got another one that I had. I'm not sure how many more you have, but the one that was really like, what the hell did just happen in front of my eyes? Saquon Barkley hitting that reverse hurdle was like, who does that? No one does that. And I probably should have brought this one up when you were on that running back renaissance talk, but who does that? Like, no, the 33rd paid wide receiver isn't doing that crap. The way that Saquon really just like elevated the Eagles as a team, like one signing, Giants didn't even want to pay him that much money, and that amount of money was definitely worth it for the Eagles. The huge just year for him, Super Bowl. I mean, just honestly, watching the Super Bowl, I was like, oh wow, okay, this sucks. I have nothing to root for right now. But then after the Super Bowl, I'm like, I get to see Saquon hold the Lombardi. That's fun. I like Saquon, and he's like posing with his family. It's like, Saquon, the one guy I'm probably rooting for on the Eagles.
Yeah. I like Jalen Hurts. He's a good guy. He's, not a great quarter. I feel like as a quarterback, he can be a little bit overrated, but
personality. Like he's very like just like
his
chill
personality, dude.
chill guy to himself, you know? I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. He had a string of videos when he was at Alabama where he would talk to a guy with Down syndrome and get score predictions from games. And he would just post these videos where he was like, all right, what you got for this one, man? And it was just this really wholesome thing where it was just a weekly thing that he would talk to this guy and get his score predictions and have a little relationship with him. And it was really cool to see that earlier today. I saw that. I have a couple more written here. Two that I just want to quick blitz through was the Jameis Winston snow game, and then the Jaden Daniels Hail Mary versus the Bears is just two really fun moments that were there.
The Jaden
really
Daniels one was another one I had.
Yeah, really dunking on the Bears here. But the last one that I really want to get into is Frankie Louvu, and you know the game, you know what I'm talking about. But him just skying over the Eagles offensive line trying to stop the tush push, and the refs are like, dude, enough. But yeah, then
I was gonna touch on the Jaden Daniels Hail Mary. Like, you know, Jaden Daniels as a player. Shout out that one commenter on our video last offseason. We had this nice, you know, big whole build up to the draft, make a bunch of videos, bunch of mock drafts, and then afterwards we did a nice, you know, we're gonna read all the comments that we got this whole off season, react to them, and you know, shout out the guys who are super nice and helpful, and then laugh at the guys who are super rude and maybe not that intelligent with their answers. Shout out the guy who made the thumbnail saying Jaden Daniels was a bum. That got me chuckling because I saw it recently this week, and man,
I gotta know where that guy's at right now. I know how that guy feels. Yeah, I have written down here actually the entire rookie quarterback class as just such a thing of beauty. Like this class is so great. Drake May I have written down as well, where it's just I'm just so glad to have him as the Patriots quarterback, and I'm so high on the hopes for our future. And then, I mean, as much as I don't like Bo Nix because I don't like the Sean Payton offense, I can't deny that he played a super efficient game. He played the Sean Payton offense to a T, and it's just a really, like, I wouldn't say heartwarming or wholesome thing to see because I don't care about him that much, but it's nice to see a guy that was so talked down on by us as like, why'd they pick him? That's such a dumb pick, to actually go ahead and lead the offense. Like, I can say I was wrong. I didn't think he'd be as successful as he was. And again, it was partially, if not mainly, because of the simple offense that he runs and the Sean Payton style. But he was able to do it very effectively, and Sean Payton knew that he was able to do it very effectively. And so I can't dog on him that much. Penix came in and looked great. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, all great. Like, this is the future. Like, this class is the future of the league for sure.
And I hope not in the way we all thought the Trevor Lawrence draft class was the future of the league. Really hope this one stands the test of time a little bit better. I've got two more that you kind of just spurred with what you were saying. Surprising moment. It wasn't surprising in the moment, I guess, but Kirk Cousins playing the season he did to end up being benched for Michael Penix. Absolutely, like, he got paid so much. He's been so good at so many different places, and then coming back from that injury, he really just fell flat. That was very surprising to me because, I mean, both of us kind of projected them to be a better team with Kirk. I mean, you have a quarterback now. We both saw bigger years for Pitts. We both thought London was going to have a bigger year than ever, and it really wasn't because of Kirk Cousins that, like, you know, the offense sputtered under him, and that was very just surprising to see. And on the flip side of that, Sam Darnold leading the Vikings after a preseason injury for JJ McCarthy. Like, Sam Darnold did so much this year to boost his value. It's actually insane. And just, you know, as you were talking about, like, you know, these, you know, they're not dogged on so much, but like, he was dogged on. He was a pick that was in the Jets, was bad, has played the backup role, and now he's, you know, he got that backup role that became a starting role, and he ran with it. And, you know, despite how it ended in the wild card, he played a great career, like a career year for him. And I hope that gets him paid in the offseason. And I hope it's it's not just like we're going to pay you 20 million. How's that sound? Because you only did it for 1 year. I hope it's like a genuine solid amount. Go to the Raiders, and let them get Genty, and then they have a very solid group of guys going forward if they give him a solid contract.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be something like the Baker deal, but adjusted for quarterback inflation, where quarterback deals are bigger than ever now. So it'll probably be 35 a year, maybe. But
yeah,
Baker's was 3 years, 100 million. It'll probably be 3 years, 110, maybe for Sam. Yeah, there were just so many awesome moments this year, and I don't really have anything else that I want to talk about as far as the moments go, but I do want to kind of pass the mic to the fans, and I want you guys to say maybe some of your favorite moments that we didn't touch on, or if you agree that we've kind of touched on all the moments that were great. I don't think we have. I'm sure there's things we're missing, but if you want to drop, I guess, your favorite moment for your teams, or just favorite moments overall for the season, some hate watches that were super successful, or some guys you were wrong on that you're pleasantly surprised about. I'd be really happy to see anybody dropping those thoughts down in those comments down below. And I guess the last thing we got to do, this is your wheelhouse. You're leading us into the off season here with the most videos created leading up to the draft. I kind of take a back seat here and I let you cook, and you put in a lot of work to these. So I want to give you the stage to shout these videos out and get people ready for it.
Yeah. So as we head into this draft cycle, we've got mock drafts for you, and you'll be seeing one of those come out tomorrow. Friday is going to be our usual release date throughout the entire pre-draft kind of window we're sitting in right now. And we hit that window, and we've hit it fast and hard. Pause. We turn out some of these videos. I as he said, I really do put a lot of time into these videos. So we're gonna go ahead, and right after this video, the next day, we've got the mock draft coming out, and then that starts our whole cascade. Every Friday we're posting on Friday at 5 like usual, and 5 p.m. Eastern. And we are going to go ahead. He's starting us off the window with his first video. I'm not sure if you're ready to tease what that is.
Yeah, it's a video about a bunch of small school first round picks from smaller schools, seeing how they did. I'm really excited to see how that one does. I've had a ton of fun making it, and there's a sequel that I won't tease too much because I teased it in the video, so go watch it if you care. That I'll be making after that. So I'm looking forward to making that one. Like I said, really enjoyed making the first one, and I'm looking forward to making that second one as well.
Yeah, and then as he starts us off with that draft season, and I take the baton and I go start running real hard on that second leg. I'm gonna be making scouting reports just like I did last season. This season, I've upped the quality a little bit. I've upped the form factor of it. So I'm actually diving deep into certain play breakdowns to show you what I'm talking about when I'm saying like, oh, this player has a great this. I'm not spoiling nothing. All right. You go watch those videos. They have this great trait. And then I pull up the film. I pull up the all 22 and I draw on the play. I show you, here are the routes. Here's why this is great. And here's what he's doing to manipulate this DB or this linebacker. And I'm really just excited to see that new form factor take shape, and I've already got 2 of them scripted up, 1 of them made, and we are starting those release dates, of course, after his video every Friday up until the draft. We will take breaks, we'll have those mock drafts come in every now and then. We'll have those other videos come in every now and then, but every single week until the draft, after that starts, I will have a scouting report drop, aiming to have around 10. Might go a little over on that, might go a little under on that, but 10's the mark. I've got a head start on it. I got started early, so I can hopefully get those all out to y'all before we have that first pick made in the NFL draft.
Yeah, do you have a set, like, I know the ones that you're going through right now that you've already got kind of pre-planned, but is there, outside of the ones that you are already looking at and making, is there any like order to them, or would you take input if anybody's requesting maybe somebody in particular that you already have on your list that might get bumped up to the top of the list if people ask for it?
Yes, definitely. The early start I've got 4 guys. I'm not moving their order to start off with. I've already got the 2 started, as I said, and then the 2 I'll be working on shortly after. Those are all set because I'm pre-baking these. So once those videos start rolling out, starting off with Ashton Genty. He's the first one on the docket. Once his rolls out and we see those comments coming in of like, here's who you'd like to see, and I would love to see those comments of like these suggestions. Once I've got those first 4 all ticked off, they're all offensive guys, if that is a nice little teaser for anybody. Seeing those suggestions for defensive players and, you know, other just positions I hadn't touched on up to that point would definitely be appreciated. So that way I could start looking in those directions. I've got like a soft list of about 3 people that I definitely could swap in and out. I've got them slated for later in the scouting report progress, because if I see enough of those names, I could definitely swap them out based on, you know, what I'm seeing about the player and what I'm seeing about the players that are being suggested.
Yeah, cool. We will also, I mean, to give a pretty big look forward, because that's all just draft season. That's just to April. So that's just a couple months away from us now. After that, after the draft, we'll keep posting videos throughout the off season. We never stop. We never really take a break from this. It's just a break from the actual long form podcasts. But throughout the off season, after the draft season, we'll have a ton of just kind of more fun videos, not necessarily super honed in on specific NFL topics or football topics, but just maybe some game show videos, game show style videos, that is, coming out as well, that we really like making. They don't typically do too well, but we have fun making them, so we do them anyways. And if there's any ideas that y'all have for us as well, throw them down in the comments. We're always looking for more things to make.
But, you know, with that, that's this season of podcast all done, wrapped up. That's the future of the rest of this podcast, all teased. I think we've hit it. I think we've hit the end of season 2 of the Franchise Tag Podcast. What a year it's been.
No
216 subs.
Going strong.
Shout out us, man.
Shout out us. Shout out us. We're on the up and
shout out y'all for watching.
Shout out y'all. Got anything else for these people? Any words of wisdom for these people to lead or live their lives by?
I have one word of wisdom. Get money. No, I'm just kidding.
One word.
I'm not gonna say the slur. Yeah, I got one word for y'all. All right, grind. There. All right. There's my word of wisdom. Deuces.